I just got back from a run. I did a strength training workout and I'm feeling extra motivated, so I decided to record a mobility and stretching flow for you to do now after your workout. So what you need is you need a circular foam roller and some sort of chair or couch. And so let's get started. We're going to take this foam roller, we're going to place it on our stomach, and we're going to lie flat down on the floor. Good. And if you don't have a foam roller, you can use a rolled up towel. The foam roller should go in the squishy part. Thank you. No more. The foam roller should go in the squishy part of your stomach. And it should feel, it probably will feel a little uncomfortable, so you just want to try and breathe through it. If you need to take a little pressure off of it, you can go on your forearms, or for more pressure, you can lie all the way down. Ding. And you're just breathing here. We carry so much tension and stress in our abdomen, and most of the time people never take the time to work on releasing this tension. So taking deep belly breaths throughout the day, lying on a foam roller, and being mindful of not constantly sucking in or engaging your core when it's not needed are great ways that you can work on decreasing this tension. All right, take a couple more seconds here. All right, and then come on up. We're going to go into a child's pose with a deeper shoulder stretch. So keep this here. You're going to roll it forward as you go into child's pose. If this is too much on your shoulder, just remove the foam roller and lower down. Even though runners don't necessarily use their arms as a main part of running, it's still so important that you work on upper body strength and also upper body mobility and range of motion, because if your upper body isn't aligned and stacked, it's going to affect your lower body and how you're landing and running and hitting the ground. When you're here, I want you to think about those lower ribs, and I want you to make sure that they're not flaring. So you're going to kind of ground those lower ribs and bring them closer to your spine. And you might notice that your shoulder range of motion isn't quite as good when you untuck, or when you tuck, I guess when you stop flaring your lower ribs. Good. All right, now we're going to work on our hip flexors. So the first option is to go into a stance like this, round your lower back, tucking your pelvis for a front quad stretch. Or if you'd like a deeper stretch, you can take your back foot and place it on a chair or a couch and then hold here. We're going to hold this for a minute. You want to, again, try and keep your low back rounded so you're getting more stretch and extension in this back hip. You can play around with shifting forward. You got about 10 seconds left. Good. All right, switch sides. So whatever you did on the first side, do that on the second side. Tuck your pelvis, flattening your lower back. Keep being mindful of your breath, taking deep inhales in your nose and out your nose. Last 3, 2, and 1. Good. All right, now we're going to go into a 90-90 stretch. So what that means is I want both legs to be in a 90 position. So your front leg is in 90 and then the back leg is in 90. And you can play around with different variations of this. You can hinge forward to get a good glute stretch, or you can square up to knee and get a stretch in this hip. And this is very similar to that hip wave that I do quite a bit. So let's just do a couple here. Good. And then hinge forward. And then square up. And let's do that again. Hinge forward. And square up. And do a couple hip waves. And we're going to switch to the other side. So stay on this side now. Hinge forward. And then square up. And hinge forward. And square up to the front. Last time. Good. A couple more hip waves. Good. All right, and then let's take your foam roller and we're going to focus on releasing our mid-back or your thoracic spine. I'm gonna walk you through a couple different things that I like to do. I want you to start right at the lower part of your thoracic spine. So that's right where those last few ribs that you have, or if you wear a bra, is right below that bra line. You're gonna keep those ribs dropped, hands behind your lower back, and I want you to arch back. And then come up, slide your butt down an inch or two, and arch back. And make your way up your mid-back. Paying attention to maybe the spots that feel a little extra tight than the others. And if you get a couple pops or cracks, that is okay. Okay, last one. All right, now from here, I want you to lift your hips and I want you to just slide up and down the foam roller. So this is kind of what most people think about when they talk about foam rolling your mid back. So go to one of those spots that was really tight, and I want you to hang out there. If it's too intense, drop your butt. If you want more pressure, lift your butt up, and option to drop those knees slightly to the side or to the other side. You can even go up and down that spot and go all the way up and down again. Good. All right. Whether you have it doesn't matter if you have a short or long foam roller. I want you to lie down on it. And if it's short like mine, it's just going to rest on the back of your head and your upper back. If it's long, then maybe your lower back will also be able to rest. So I want you to drop your ribs. Make sure your lower ribs aren't sticking out, and bring your arms out to the side. Taking a couple deep breaths here, feeling that stretch on the front of your chest. And then start to do some floor angels with your arms. Trying to keep your arms or your hands touching the ground as long as you can. And if they can't reach, that is okay. Just try to reach towards the ground. Good. All right. Come on up. And if your hips allow, I want you to sit in a cross-legged position and take your top leg and take one foot on top of your knee. If this is too intense, you can always sit on some chair or some pillows or even this foam roller. But when you're in this position, you're getting a really nice hip opener, and that's going to give us great access to working on our feet now. So as runners, our feet take a huge beating, and we wouldn't be anywhere without them. And so we need to give them the energy and the love that they deserve. So I want you to try and put your fingers in between each of your toes. It's like toe spacers. And then you can play around with just mobilizing your toes, going in one direction, maybe the other, in kind of a circular motion. You can try and extend your toes, so your toes are pointing up, and you can try and flex your toes. And just kind of do whatever feels good for your toes. And now let's take just a little bit of time specifically on your big toe. I want you to extend that big toe so the big toe is pointing straight up. This motion is so important for walking and running, and oftentimes your big toe can get really tight and restricted, and that will affect pretty much everything up the kinetic chain. So now when you take your big toe and point it down, and do that a couple times. If you find that your feet are really restricted and this is tight, make sure you do this several times a day or at least a couple times a week to keep your feet happy. All right, let's switch sides. Other foot goes on top. Try and interlace your fingers in between all of your toes. They also make really good tools for your toes. They're called Correct Toes. I think that's just one brand, but you can get other brands as well that work on just creating more space in between your toes. So you can do some circles in one direction and the other. And you can extend your toes and flex them. Okay. And then let's just work on that big toe. Extend your big toe And pay attention to both sides. Does one side extend more than the other, or are they even? Good. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is a hamstring stretch and another shoulder opener. So take your chair, you're gonna flip it around this way. I want your feet slightly wider than hip apart. Soften your knees, shift your butt back, and then place your hands on the chair. Let your chest drop down. Make sure your ribs aren't flaring, and you want a slight arch in your lower back. So I don't want your lower back to look like this. I want it to look like this. And if you need to bend your knees more to get that arch, that is okay. And hopefully by now you can start to feel your hamstrings stretching. If not, straighten your knees slightly, shift your butt back. And from here, you can play around with different movements. You can shift side to side. You can bend your knees and straighten them. Right now, this one feels really good for me, so I'm going to do this one a couple more times. Good. All right, coming back to stillness. What I want you to do is I want you to flare your ribs, and then I want you to tuck your ribs. Flare and tuck. This is giving you better feedback of what it feels like, and it's also really good mobility exercise for your mid-back. Okay, and now tuck those ribs. And I want you to do the same thing for your lower back. I want you to arch your lower back and round your lower back. And arch and round. One more. Good. Hold here. Sink a little deeper if you can. 3, 2, and 1. Good. All right, so that is it for the post-run mobility flow. If you have a little bit more time before you have to shower and change, make sure that you spend a little bit of time foam rolling any extra tight muscles or spots that you have. Thank you so much for doing this mobility flow with me. Please share it with any friends that would benefit. If you liked it, write a comment below, and have a wonderful day.